The late afternoon sun cast a golden hue over the quiet roadside diner, the scent of sizzling burgers and brewed coffee lingering in the warm air. A few travelers sat inside, lost in idle conversation, but outside on the patio, an elderly man sat alone in a wheelchair. His posture was upright, his green military jacket neatly buttoned, and his cap, embroidered with an old unit insignia, rested perfectly on his head. His face, lined with the weight of years, was calm as he slowly sipped his coffee, his hand steady on his lap. The distant rumble of motorcycles shattered the peaceful silence. A gang of bikers rolled into the parking lot, their machines growling like caged predators. One by one, they shut off their engines and dismounted, leather boots crunching against gravel. At the front of the pack, their leader, a towering man with a jagged scar running down his cheek, smirked as he took in the scene. His name was Jax, and he was used to people shrinking in his presence. Jax strode forward, his men flanking him, their presence darkening the patio's atmosphere. The old man remained still, his eyes not even shifting toward them. "Well, look at this," Jax sneered. "An old soldier enjoying the sunshine. You fought for this country, huh?" He scoffed. "What's it done for you?" His men chuckled as Jax stepped closer, planting both hands on the armrests of the wheelchair, leaning in. "You don't look so tough now, old-timer." Still, the old man didn't flinch. His calm, unwavering presence irritated Jax. With a swift motion, he reached forward and plucked the cap from the man's head, tossing it carelessly onto the ground. The laughter died instantly. The air grew thick, suffocating. The old man exhaled slowly, his voice steady. "Son," he said, his tone carrying the weight of experience, "you just made a mistake you can't take back." A tense silence followed. Jax chuckled, though there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes. "That's so? And what are you going to do about it?" The old man didn't react to the taunt. He simply reached down, picked up his cap, dusted it off, and placed it back on his head. Then, finally, he looked up, his eyes locking onto Jax's. There was something in them, something cold, something that had seen the worst of mankind and lived through it. "You think strength is about having a gang, about throwing your weight around," the old man said. "But I've seen real strength. I've seen men face things that would turn your blood to ice, and I've watched some of the strongest crumble." A younger biker shifted, uneasy. Jax forced a smirk, but his fingers twitched at his sides. "Yeah? And what would you know about that?" The old man reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, worn coin. It was heavy in his hand, the edges smoothed from years of being carried. He held it up just enough for the light to catch. One of the younger bikers paled. "That's a Black Ops Challenge coin," he whispered. Jax's smirk faded. The old man turned the coin between his fingers before slipping it back into his pocket. "I've stood where fear was the only thing keeping men alive," he said, his voice low, even. "I've faced enemies that didn't hesitate, that didn't care how mean or tough you thought you were, and I survived." The weight of his words pressed down on them like an unseen force. Some of the bikers exchanged uneasy glances. Jax's jaw tightened, but his confidence wavered. One of his men leaned in. "Jax, maybe we should just go." Another biker stepped back, then another. The shift was happening, and Jax knew it. He clenched his fists, pride battling reason, before finally exhaling sharply. "You got lucky today, old man," he muttered. But there was no real conviction in his voice. He turned on his heel, signaling for the others to follow. One by one, they climbed onto their bikes, engines roaring to life once more. The old man didn't react as they sped off, dust swirling in their wake. He simply adjusted his cap, lifted his coffee, and took a slow, deliberate sip, his expression unreadable.